Welcome and thanks for joining us today. You're listening to the Women's Broadcast Television Expert Spotlight Show, and I'm your host, Shea. WB-TVN is the all-women's internet television station with content that's created by women and for women. Today, joining us as our expert here on WB-TVN's Expert Spotlight is an amazing woman, and I'm so happy to have her on our show. Esperanza Montalvo is really she does reinvention with your life, but she actually does it for corporations, and she talks and helps people with leadership. Those are two things that all of us want to experience or haven't had the opportunity, or maybe we have, and it keeps coming back. So I just want to welcome her to our show today. Esperanza, so nice to have you on our show. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much, Shea, for this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here.
Great. And you know, I love what you're doing because you're making a difference in people's lives. And tell us the story about how did you grow up and what got you from there to where you are today?
Oh, this is a wonderful question, Shea. Well, I'm originally from Latin America, from Colombia. And I came to Canada when I was very young. Well, I would say young. I was 18 years old. And coming from one culture to another really gave me what is called culture shock. I'm sure you're aware of it. And I began to question the paradigms of each culture and the differences, and had the opportunity to go to university and went into the field of communications and leadership. And I start questioning my paradigms and the paradigms of the different cultures and the different backgrounds. I lived in Japan, so I had a combination of three paradigms that were completely different, and how leadership is so different depending on the paradigms in our lives.
Well, you know, many times people do have different paradigms. And the one thing that I can remember hearing at an event that I went to is that if somebody's paradigm doesn't match with yours, let them get out of the way so that you can accomplish what it is that you're supposed to do. And I think
that's wonderful.
I know. I think that it's so true because somebody's paradigm that's never going to happen, and yours is like, and yours might be, I don't see all those hurdles right now, and it's probably a good thing that I don't see them because they would stop me from even trying. So
Absolutely, I love what you're saying, Shea, in that there are paradigms that said things are impossible, and there are paradigms that said nothing is impossible.
Exactly.
So I was faced, and I like what you said, if the paradigm is different, move away, or at least explore a different paradigm. And exactly. That is absolutely right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right.
Well, you know, I do think that our mindset is everything. And you know, it really depends on, you know, growing up and what kind of role models we've had. I know, I can tell you within my own family, I was very fortunate to have a mom who was just an amazing woman in herself. And she was not someone that I ever heard say anything bad about anybody. Even though she divorced my father and he was kind of a jerk, I didn't hear her say terrible things. and I think that was a huge benefit for me because I just didn't think that it was right to talk badly, you know, about other people. And besides that, being a mom and not being raised with my dad, I didn't see all these obstacles in front of me that because of being a woman, I couldn't do all the same things that men did. I didn't see that hurdle. I didn't know that that it was going to be harder. I didn't know that a lot of women, you know, didn't make the same amount of money or that they had to work harder at something. And it's probably good that I didn't see any of that because I was just the girl that just had the idea and just moved forward and made it happen. And I'm very
that's beautiful
entrepreneur. So my paradigm was really built out of having, my mother in my life, who I imitated in a lot of ways. A lot of differences between us, but not a lot. But I do think that we do get these things in our heads because we hear them over and over again. And most of the time, it's stuff that does not serve us well.
Absolutely. Shea, I love your example because I like to bring my story as well. My mother was a fighter. I come from a very large family. My father passed away when I was young, when I was very little, but my mother always knew that there was always something good at the end of the tunnel. She was she had great faith and very positive, and faith in the possibilities. And she never said to us, you can't do that. She always said, anything you want, you go for it, woman.
Right.
And so it's a beautiful, and I'm glad that you mentioned your paradigm and how our paradigm really impacts the results in our lives. It is, and I think the secret is to find out what paradigms are running our lives, and are they congruent with the results that we're looking for? And if they are not, we have the power to change them. And that's when it comes the idea of reinventing ourselves, is really changing our mindset and our paradigms.
Many times, yeah, and I love what you're saying. I think that many times we do reinvent ourselves with not even the idea that change needs to take place for good reasons. Because when a door closes, another door opens. And if that door didn't close, we wouldn't have the same opportunities. I know a lot of people that have become great entrepreneurs and built businesses because they lost their job. And at that time, they thought their world had fallen apart. And
yes,
and they never thought that they were, that they were going to be, find themselves in that situation. But, later it's always easier when you're past that and you've been successful at something, to look at it from a positive situation. But a lot of people struggle through that too. So I also believe in being realistic. And so I think that reinvention is sitting down when you find yourself in those kinds of situations and really asking yourself, not just the things that that you don't want to do, because everybody has that list. They know exactly what they don't want to do. What they don't know is what they do want to do.
Yes, and that is most of the challenging parts of creating that process of reinvention. I had the good fortune of living in Japan for a year. I lived in Japan and worked in Japan for a year. And in Japan, the word crisis really means opportunity. And so, as you know, Shea, I'm not sure in the States, but in Canada, we're going through quite a big global economical change. This is worldwide because I live in a city that is the oil city, and you know what's happening with the oil industry right now. So in our process, in our courses, in our coaching, I really bring the idea of looking at crisis as an opportunity to reinvent yourself. And sometimes when we get to the bottom of a situation and when we know that there's no other way to come out, we have to get into the talents and gifts and abilities that we've never explored before. And so that crisis brings us into reinventing ourselves into something that we love to do. But it is being open to change, and it is being open to getting into that unknown area where we have to take risks, where we have to really get to know what we don't know. And is getting into saying, yes, there are infinite possibilities. You mentioned being realistic. And to me, being realistic is understanding that our reality, we can create our own reality. We have the power to create a new reality, because the reality that I'm living right now, I actually created it with my thoughts, with my words, and with my feelings. I created that in the past. Now I'm ready to create something new. So I need to start with what we call the invisible actions. Stevie Covey. I'm a facilitator of the 7 Habits of
Okay.
highly effective people. And we talk a lot about what is called the invisible actions, which are our words, our thoughts, and our feelings. And those are the actions.
And those are the most
Really?
important. Yeah. I did a radio show for many years, and at the end of it, I used to always say, remember one thing, and that is the thoughts that we have and what we say and what we do. That is who we are.
Yes,
that is
absolutely.
who we are. And so, and it's a simple thing to say, but people, I don't think, really understand all of that because they're not really listening sometimes to what they say. And sometimes they're not in the moment where they can really see that, maybe what somebody is saying to them, they need to dismiss that because it's not in their best interest. And so
yes, and that's
so you have to get to the point in your own life where you make your decisions, your choices, because you are going to live by those, either good
and that's what
or not so good.
And that's what I call awareness. And that's why my company is called Leadership with Awareness. Mm-hmm. It is being aware that everything that we create, or at least that's what we're talking, leadership with awareness, is that a leader in leadership with awareness is someone who understands that he or she is 100% responsible for the results in his or her life. And I do believe that 100% is that whatever I create, whatever my results are, I am the only one to blame because I have the tools. And when I become aware of those tools, which are my words, my thoughts, and my feelings, then I can create just about anything I desire when I am aware of the power of those invisible actions, not before that.
Right. And I totally agree with that. And I think that the power of thought is so powerful because the things that we think about, we tend to act out, which is even more important. So that first little seed is planted and then we start to act it out. And so that's why it's so important that in growing our own garden, in our minds, that we plant all the right seeds, because that growth from there is really going to determine, what our future is going to be, how we think, what we say, how we do it, how we treat other people, because that's, to me, really important, because we always get, I remember reading a book when I was younger, and it said, to have a friend, you must be a friend. And so Absolutely. It was just a little tiny book, not a lot of pages. I can't remember. I think somebody, gave it to me. A friend did. Maybe they were trying to tell me something. I don't know. But I loved it. But I loved it. And I've often always thought about that. If you want something, you must give it first. You can't expect to get... You can't expect to have all of these things in your life and sit back and think somebody's going to come knocking on your door, or you're going to walk out your door and somebody's going to hand everything to you. And that's the extreme in thinking in that way. And that's just an example. I know that most people don't, but they live like they do. There's where the difference is. They live it like it's going to happen that way, even though they know that it's not. So you got to put the work into it.
Yes, you bring something very interesting, because I'm a strong believer that our life is an echo of what we speak, what we think, and what we feel. In other words, I'm not sure if you heard, I'm sure you heard the story of the father that took the little son to a mountain, and the little son said something. I can't remember what he said. He said dog, and then he heard dog back, and then he said house, and then house back. And the father and the son said, Dad, why do I hear this back as I say it? And the father said, just as you're hearing what you're saying right now, same as life. Your life is an echo of what you speak, of what you think, and what you feel. And I'm a believer of that energy. I'm a strong believer that that is true. It has happened in my life, and I have experiences that that demonstrate that that is absolutely true.
So that's one of the seeds that we need to plant up here, that our life is an echo. So what we say actually comes to reality, to grow. So if we want good things, then we need to echo good things. If we strongly believe in something, we need to echo that. And sometimes it doesn't always come in the time frame that we want it, but you have to just, life doesn't work like that. Sometimes you've got to let it come at a time that our Maker believes that it's right for you, because he wants abundance for us. There's no question about that. But it's not within our time. And it's the same thing about meeting people. Sometimes I meet people and I try so hard. In fact, I care so much that I want to get them to a certain stage in their life that's going to bring joy and whatever. But what I've learned is that I can't give that to them. I can work as hard as I want to. I can't give that to them. And it's hard for me on that. But what I do know is if I can just meet them where they are, and give them one or two things that might be empowering to them with choices, being in the moments, all of those good things, they'll get there a lot faster on their own because we have them present at that point in time and they can apply that one little thing to the next thing that they do.
And Shea, what you are mentioning right now, to me, is one of the most challenging aspects of any coach. I'm a coach. I'm a certified coach.
Me too.
It is understanding where each person is at. And so in Leadership with Awareness, we have a level of stages. We have what it is, what's the first one? Is survival, then success, then significance, or stability, and then significance. And for me as a coach, to be able to put as you mentioned, to be able to put myself in the place or the level, and we're not talking about higher, or, you're a coach.
No, I totally agree with you.
Higher, the needs, is understanding what are the needs of this person. I have to confess that I made a lot of mistakes because, as you mentioned, I wanted to feed people everything I know and all the tools that I had. Not because I'm better or know more, but because we have these tools in our hands and I wanted to feed them when it wasn't the right time. And so the coach having that ability to understand the needs of each particular person is a big skill. It's a very powerful skill to have.
Yeah.
Very powerful skill.
And I want to take that to the next level because I'll tell you what I really learned out of that. People like myself that would do that really has a need, to be recognized for the gift. So, I had to really come to the reality that, yes, I'm that person. I really am a very caring person, as I know that you are too. But when you do overly everything, like that, it's really because you're missing something in your life and that you need something. That's a really hard thing for me to say, but it's truthful. And I had to realize that. And in the realization of that helped me to get to the point to meet people where they are today.
I just love what you just said, Shea. You know why? Because one of my biggest fears, I was just doing a video just before we connected on my fears. One of my biggest fears, and when I recognized it, was my fear of not being recognized, of not being admired, of not being praised, of not being, recognized as a successful person. And so and you just mentioned it, when I recognized that fear, the fear that I had, exactly, it just put me in a position where I don't have to show everybody what I know or what I do or just meet people where they are. So thank you, Shea, for bringing that up, because it is one of the most amazing things to recognize my fears and to recognize our fears. That is liberating. That when we get to that place, is liberation. It is freedom.
Well, I think that it's very important sometimes that we take a step backwards and we ask ourselves certain questions. And that is, why do I care so much? Because, and when I say that to myself, I had to kind of step back and go, what is it I'm trying to get out of it? What is in it for me? Because we all are, people that have needs and are selfish with those needs because we feel that our needs need to come first. And when you can just get to the point where you can wash all of that away, and those things are not the most important thing to you, it's so funny that life just has a way of giving them to you. When in fact, that wasn't, when you finally get there, they give it to you, because the truth of the matter is you're in the reality of what life is going to give you. And when you don't need it so badly, that's when you end up getting it, because you have to get through that. It's not that you don't want to have things when you need them, but they're not the right things for you right there. Because the only thing that would have happened with me, getting all the things that I needed then, I would have given more to get more. And that's not how it works. It's just not how it works.
It's so beautiful what you say, Shea.
Oh, well, I think the things that you say are beautiful. So I want to go on to one more thing. So we've talked about that reinventing, ourselves, and you work with companies and doing that. You've accomplished so much in your life and given so much. So leadership, I really find that interesting. It's everybody has a different way about, leadership. And I'm going to make my statement before I hear yours. Because you know what leadership to me is being yourself and leading the way, because you walk the walk and talk the talk.
I was going to say amen. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. That's what leadership is for Leadership with Awareness. It is leading by example. Always you first. The moment that we gain personal leadership, that moment I could be an example to others, because I'm sure and I just want to share the story of Gandhi. Remember that story of Gandhi with the sugar? Totally. The mother that brought the little boy and came, let him, tell him to stop eating sugar, and he said, give me a week. And then the mother comes and says, why do you ask me to give a week? He says, because I was eating sugar when you asked me to tell the boy. And so that to me is exactly the example of what I call a leader, someone who does what asks others to do.
Exactly.
First, like that's it first. And so leadership by example. Yes.
Yeah. And I want to comment on the fact that since you work with so many corporations, and some corporations are, win lots of awards because from the top up, it trickles down to what this company is all about. And it also works in reverse of that. When we don't have the people at the top that are setting the examples, or the examples that they're setting isn't what they expect out of their employees, that's not a match. That's not going to work.
It's not a match. And
there's a responsibility that comes with building a large corporation. It's not just about the fact, gee, all of my employees should feel, grateful, which they do.
Yes.
Grateful that they have a job. That they, have a job that they can come to every day, and that they can, put food on the plate and whatever. But as human beings, we need to get past that. We need to realize that as human beings, we need something more than that. And if we were coming to work and we got that paycheck, but we had a chance to, share our talents, because that's why we're there, is to share our talents. And everybody has different talents, but you want to be able to have a space where you can be creative, where somebody isn't going to take credit for what you do. And it doesn't need riding the backs of someone else and not being recognized for what you do. Companies that thrive and do well give credit to those employees, because they want to keep them and not have them go someplace else with that kind of talent and open-mindedness, and have evolved into a management position that are truly going to foster great employees to come in and be better managers. That's my
Yes,
philosophy.
yeah, and in fact, one of the largest companies that I work for, geophysical company. Number one, we used to think that money or salary was a motivator. It is number 8 motivator.
Exactly.
And so when we talk about leadership by position, that type of leadership is almost dying right now, because we bring into organizations, as you know, what is called the new leadership style, as opposed to the old leadership style, which was based on the hierarchical, authoritative style, which doesn't work anymore, because the new generation is not putting up with authoritarian style of leadership. The new generation now is asking for examples. It's show me what kind of leader you are, and I listen to you. If you're not the leader that I want to follow, I won't follow you. Right. And so that's why this happening, this global turmoil, is because, of course, of these generational changes and these leadership style changes.
Right. And I love the fact that the younger generation is not putting money first. They've gone and they've, gotten a degree, or they're working within a business that they love. They feel that they have certain talents, and they are not going to give in to money, because they have been able to, for a long time, look back on their parents, their aunts, the people in their lives, and see that these are not happy people. And I want to have some joy in my life and have fun, and not work for someone else who hasn't appreciated me for 30 or 40 years. That's really, and I think that's a good thing to do, because I think it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to a lot of corporations that aren't giving meeting the needs of the younger generation, and therefore the turnover is costing them more money than if they were able to embrace a different way to look at this. Not be grateful for what I give you, but I am grateful for what you give me.
Yes, and that's why corporations are going through this big turmoil, is because, as you mentioned, Shea, the new generation is, I want to do what I love and love what I do. Exactly. It's not like baby boomers is, baby boomers, I work because I need money, and without having the awareness that money is a consequence of doing what we love. And so anyways, we could have another show talking about generations and the impact of the new mindset, and how companies are feeling that impact. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating to
very
understand.
Fascinating, and I think it's great topics that we've been talking about, as far as reinventing yourself, leadership, corporations, and the play that it has in many of people's lives. And you should think about coming on and being a host with us, and we'll talk about that afterwards. But I just let people know where they can find you first and foremost. So do you have a website that you can direct them to?
Yes, we have a landing page, and there are a couple, but I'm going to give you one. Is Esparanza Montalvo, or www.esperanzamontalvo.com. And I also have www.leadershipwithawareness.com. Okay. And of course, my Facebook fan page, which is Leadership with Awareness in Facebook.
Great.
So, and my, I'm not sure if you're going to write those down or going to appear in the show, but easy. And they'll probably find information to contact me. www.esperanzamontalvo.com.
Okay. So Esperanza, and that is spelled Esperanza, for those people that are listening, and then Montalvo is Montalvo.
That's correct. Thank you, Shea.
So that they have that correct information. So before we sign off, what are some pearls of wisdom that you might share for our audience that you think is really dear to your heart and that you would like to share with them?
Something dear to my heart is that all of us, each of us, has the power to be, do, and have whatever we envision whatever we create in our vision, we have the power to achieve it. And we have what is called the Break Free Blueprint. So my coaching, and it is focusing on the direction, is knowing where we're going and just being determined, focused, and believe that we can, again, be, do, and have whatever we envision.
Oh, that was beautiful. And I definitely agree. We have the power. You know, I
Yes.
definitely believe in that. And so I just really want to thank you, Esperanza, for being on the show today and sharing all your wisdom and expertise with us. I want to thank our audience for being with us here at the WBTVN Expert Spotlight Show. And, you know, we are so fortunate to be able to have women that are experts and being able to highlight them, you know, on the show, because we have lots of very, very successful women across the universe that we've interviewed and love their stories. And if you would like to be interviewed, please go to wbtvn.tv, fill out the form, and we will contact you. So until the next time, thank you so much for being our guest, and we will see you again soon.
But Shea, thank you very much to you and to the Women Broadcast Television Network for this opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I know that you're changing the world, and I want to be part of it. Thank you very much.
And
thank you to the audience as well.
And you are part of that. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Bye now.